Good evening, everyone. This week we are doing our OK Boomer series with Uncle Pete. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been St Stephen's for the last 30 years, and I've been coming to the evening service probably for the last 20 years. I started work when I was probably about 16. I worked at Woolies, and I worked there for 6 years part-time during my school time. That was about 1974. And I then decided that when I left school, I was going to be a radiographer, but I didn't get into radiography, so I went to university for a year and did surveying, which I found really difficult. And then I became a university dropout. And then I went and did my radiography and trained at Henri-Earl Hospital as a radiographer. And after that, I travelled overseas and worked in England, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and then came back to Australia married. Got a job at Manly Hospital. I worked at the Mater Hospital, then I worked on a mobile service, worked in sales, and then I worked at Royal Prince Alfred Hospital for 8 years, and I'm now working at the EPA as a regulator of radiation, and I've been there for 18 years.
Wow, 18 years is a long time.
Yeah.
You could almost say only boomers work at one place for 18 years.
Well, I think as you get older and you sort of find a more stable or a job that suits you, you have a tendency to stay longer. My first jobs are only for short periods of time, it's generally about 3 years. I wanted to probably share that when I was young, I'm probably just like you. I had really very little idea of what I wanted to do as far as career goes. And I suppose one of the main things that I want to talk about today is the fact of that anxiety, I think, is only natural. But what I've learned over time is that God has got a plan for me. And even though I've been through all those different jobs, I felt that God was guiding me in some ways. Sometimes I can probably give an example. I was working at Manly Hospital. I wasn't particularly happy there, and I thought a job came up as a chief radiographer at the Mater Hospital. And I thought to myself, oh, that'd be really nice. But at the same time, there was a Christian guy at the church who ran a mobile x-ray service. And I thought, and he said, we've been praying for a radiographer, and he asked me whether I would come and work for him. And I said, oh, no,
I know, we've been praying, I almost have to go take this job.
And I thought to myself, oh, that's too, little,
below me.
Yeah, below me. I'm going to work as a chief radiographer at the Mater Hospital. And I went to the Mater Hospital, and it was the biggest disaster as far as work goes. Everything I seemed to put my hand on went wrong, to the point that after 3 months, the chief radiologist sort of came along and said, look, we don't think that this is the job for you.
Wow.
And I was sort of devastated. So I got on the phone to this guy, the mobile radiography fellow, and rang him up and said, have you still got a position there? And he says, yes, I knew you'd be here.
Wow. That's actually really cool.
Yeah. So so I to a certain extent, I found that that God has guided me and has known where the best place for me at each time of my life. After I was doing the mobile service, I went into sales. Yeah, so I did the sales, and then after the sales was good, but I found it difficult as a Christian in some ways, because I had a tendency to look at it from the customer's point of view only, and not from the company's point of view.
Yeah.
And so therefore, I probably was not as effective as a salesperson as I could be. And it's interesting that that job, eventually they found somebody who was working for the opposition who wanted to change positions, and so they needed to make a position available, so they edged me out of the job. I mean, that was hard, but God, again, provided a job at Royal Prince Alfred Hospital for me. Even before I left, I'd got a job there.
Oh, that's so good.
And the great thing about this job, which I wouldn't have been able to do in sales, was it was the time that my children were very young, and I was able to go part-time at Royal Prince Alfred, and Jane went part-time. And so the kids actually didn't need to go into any care, because we sort of childcare between us.
Juggled it between you, yeah.
So God provided that. And then this final job that I'm doing now, that I've been in 18 years, I applied for it twice. The first time I didn't get it at all because I had no idea actually how to apply properly for it, because it was a government job, and most of the jobs I'd been to before, I just said, "Hey, I'm a radiographer," and they gave me the job. Whereas this time it was quite different, and I went for a second interview, and somebody else got the job, and I didn't have the job, and I sort of was quite disappointed. But I said to God, "Look, if you want me to be at Royal Prince Alfred Hospital and continue working there, then look, I accept that as being your will."
Yeah.
And like the next day, the telephone rang, and they said, "Oh, the guy who took up the job, he's gone back to Queensland. Would you like to come and work?"
Yeah.
And
After that prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, after admitting to God and sort of saying, "You're in control of this," and I think that's how I've the process of going and looking for jobs is generally, I've always taken up any opportunity that's come along. If God's presented something to me, I sort of try. Even like going to my present job was very stressful because I'd never done anything like regulating or working for the government like that. I was a radiographer, and to a certain extent that was my mindset, and so I found it really stressful to start with, but it's turned out to be a really good job, a really interesting job that I've enjoyed. I mean, a lot of people would say I'm probably towards the end of my work life. I'm 62, but at the moment I'm finding it really hard the thought of retiring. I think God will have to show me something
Something different, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's that verse in Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. It's about, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." Prior to that, it talks about don't worry about what tomorrow will bring, but what you're going to wear, what you're going to eat. Like, God knows all those things. So the concept being that, God knows what you need, and if you seek him first, he'll take care of it all. You think about your life and what you've been through. God knew you were going to get that job.
Yeah.
Even the Manly dude with the mobile service, it's almost like he's like, "You'll be back." You've written down here that God knew the destination, but it was not always clear to me on the way.
Yeah.
Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, look, I think that, when I was young, I had no idea, and it's amazing that there's no way that I would ever have imagined doing the job that I'm doing. Sometimes I'm out on the road, going somewhere, doing a investigation or something, and I sort of think to myself, how did I ever end up here? This is, I really, God's given me such a good and interesting job that I never expected, and I would never have dreamed of this when I first started out at college as a radiographer. And I think it's hard when you're young because you're anxious. You think that what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? But I think if you've got your faith, that when you go for a job, you ask God to show you whether this is the right thing to do, that he'll honour you. That for those jobs that I've gone for and haven't got, it's probably because that wasn't what I was supposed to do. I mean, I've even been for jobs, went for a job as a radiographer at North Shore Hospital, and I didn't really want the job, and I didn't get the job, but I was still disappointed. I think it's rejection. I don't think we like to be rejected. But yeah, the journey is I think that we need to enjoy that journey.
I like that God often lets us make those mistakes too. Like he allowed you to go to that other job for 3 months. And then all to fall apart for you before you were like...
It's a growing thing. I think the other dangerous thing I did just before I lost that job was I said to God, "Lord, help me to have more faith in you." And
Oh, bad prayer. Oh, never pray that. That's first tip.
So that was a part of my Christian walk. I suppose it's the three things that you need to do when you go for a job. You need to pray about it. You need to read the Bible and get guidance, and you need to ask people what they think. Their advice on, is this a good move? Whether it's a Christian or your parents. And I mean, even in deciding what you're going to do for a job, you should pray to God and let Him show you what your interests, your skills, and your abilities are, and then sort of let Him bring up those opportunities and take those opportunities.
I like what you said here. You said, but it's not always clear to me on the way. The idea that God doesn't always give you the details.
No.
But you're on the journey, and I guess you just got to have faith.
Yeah, it's very much a faith thing, the whole work journey. And it's not always going to be easy. I think that sometimes you'll get a job or start doing a job and you sort of think, oh, this is dreadful. But it's amazing how over time you can work yourself into a job and you can appreciate the best things about work in any situation. And for me, I think the most important thing is to be productive. And I think that my work ethic is that when I'm working for God, really. I'm not working for my employer. I'm there, and in a lot of my jobs I've done, I've been serving people and looking after people, and I think that's the motivation that I have for working and for
God's
doing
children.
things. Yeah, and seeing how best to serve and help them. Even as a regulator and having to tell people that they're not doing the right thing, it's finding the solutions and how they can get to that point where they are doing the right thing, giving guidance.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that thought. Something that can later be a blessing can be a curse if you get it too soon. The idea that God has great things for you, but maybe he can't give it to you yet. And the other thought you prompted me on was in the book of Genesis with Adam, where he gave Adam and Eve, he said, tend the garden.
Yeah.
Like this idea that even a perfect man was a working man, to be productive with your life no matter what.
Yeah, that's I get my satisfaction out of actually doing and finishing something off, and it's interesting that different jobs that I've done, the work satisfaction comes in different ways. And as a radiographer, your work satisfaction comes at the end of the patient when you've got a nice diagnostic image. But and at the end of the day, you've had lots of positive, hopefully reinforcements of nice things and completing tasks and feeling satisfied. In my current job, things can take weeks, months, years to come to fruition. So the work satisfaction can be a lot more long term, and the victories are a lot harder won. In many ways, I prefer the radiographer, the quick satisfaction rather than the long term. And in sales, you're either on a high or a low.
Yeah, and we all want to be on the high.
Yeah, you want every sale you're on a high, and you're only as good as your last sale.
So, as a Christian in the workplace,
Yeah.
Is there anything you wanted to comment on there as far as carrying your faith? Are you more of a overt Christian, where or you're more covert?
Yeah. Look, I think as I've got older, I've got bolder. But especially in my current position, people know that I'm a Christian. And if we talk about the weekend and what I've done, I will include my church activities. And a lot of my colleagues are quite surprised over the years the things I've been involved in. I had a very difficult situation in my current job that I had an employee, a fellow employee who went for the same job as myself. And when he didn't get the position, he took a claim to the Fair Work Tribunal, saying that I'd got the position and it was incorrect that I had got the position, and I had to go to a
Wow.
court. Yeah, and
I didn't even know there's a thing. So if someone gets a job and you want that job, you can be like, I'm better than you.
Yeah, in the public service there was. That is no more, but at that time there was. And I ended up with a lawyer. The company provided a lawyer for me. And he put together this dreadful smear document.
Against the other guy?
No, sorry. The other guy
against
put against me. Wow. To the point that I felt like I didn't want to go to court. And he put together this really dreadful document about how, and every conversation or anything that I might have done wrong or
wow.
not, he put it there to
took a soundbite of everything and made a big picture
and
out
gave
of it.
it to the court as his evidence.
So he did a current affair on you?
Yeah, he did. And when we were in court, he stood up and went through all the things that I'd done wrong.
Yeah.
I stood up and talked about all the things I had done right, and what I'd succeeded in the time that I'd been there. And in the end, the judge was actually supportive of me. One of the things he pointed out was the fact that I didn't put him down at all. Was the
bigger sign than anything else.
Yeah, that I should have been in that position. I think that, again, it's putting faith in God that He's in control of the whole situation. Which
we all know theologically.
Yeah, but look, I know it's really hard not to worry. And when you're living through it, it's very different. And this is where actually seeking out Christians to talk to them about it is a good thing, to be mentored, to have that reassurance and to know that you're not a failure if you don't pass your HSC. You're just on a path.
That's actually a good... so if I was to try and put that in a nice, succinct way, have faith that God is in control.
Yeah.
And one of the ways you can practically grow in that faith is by talking to a boomer about their life journey, because they're all going to come to the same, I know I'm only 37 and I already have heaps of stories of like, God is in control, just relax.
Yeah.
I can see it now. I didn't see it then, but I can see, looking back, I can see God's, fingerprint.
Well, two of the people who've already just spoken recently, Carl and Chris, have both experienced difficult job situations in the last few years. Carl's lost his job a couple of times and has been unemployed and looking. And Chris just recently had a period after redundancy where he was looking for work as well. And it's not easy to look for work when you're as old as we are. I'm sure that they sought out mentors and people to talk about the situation. They've got a life experience behind them, but they still would have prayed and sought advice and probably would be quite anxious at times as well. I think anxiety is a natural emotion that even though the Bible continually says don't worry, we find it so hard not to.
Yeah. Any last thoughts that you want to just put out there?
I think that one of the things about working is that you're always going to find people that you work with that are difficult. And there's going to be those people that you don't really have, it's not good or bad. And then you're going to have those people that you really get on well with. And you should enjoy those people that you get on with and try not let those people that annoy you or the ones that bully you, the difficult ones, get on top of you. And it's interesting that some of the worst things about work are the people that you have to work with, but I think the best things also the people who you work with. So it's trying to balance those two.